Kublakhan by Samuel Taylor Coleridge. Presentation by Indira, Guest Lecturer, English Department, SF, CPA College, Bodinayakanur. Samuel Taylor Coleridge, 1772-1834. English lyrical poet, critic, philosopher. He is hailed as one of the greatest romantic poets besides Keats, Shelley, and Wordsworth. His lyrical ballads, written with William Wordsworth, is heralded the English Romantic movement. 1797, the famous friendship trio of Wordsworth, Dorothy, and Coleridge began, "We were three people, but only one soul," fell a prey to the use of opium. His famous work, The Rime of the Ancient Mariner, Christabel, Kublakhan, Dejection and Woe, Biographical Literature, is the most significant work of general literary criticism. Kublakhan, an introduction. The subtitles of Kublakhan are A Visionary in a Dream. It's a fragment, it's an incompleted work. It was completed in 1797 and published in 1816. He composed the 54-line work. While under the influence of laudanum, a form of opium, he had the dream of Xanadu while he slept under its influence. He started writing lines of poetry that came to him from the dream until he was interrupted by a person from Perlock. After the person left, he could not continue his writing since he forgot all about his dream. As a result, the rest of the poem slipped out of his mind and the existing one has remained a fragment. The poem belongs to the dream, a territory of art and which is much more colorful and sensuous than the commotion of real life. Kublakhan builds a pleasure palace. Kublakhan was a great Chinese emperor and founder of the Yuan dynasty. Xanadu was his summer capital. He built there a splendid pleasure on the bank of the sacred river Alf. Flowing through inconceivably deep caves, the Alf ultimately poured itself into a dark subterranean sea. It's a sunless sea, untouched by the rays of the sun. Environment of the pleasure palace. The palace had been built on the fertile tract of land extending over 10 square miles. The place was walled around with towers. The gardens there were fertilized by winding streams. The gardens were full of trees which gave a fragrant substance. The forests there were ancient as the hills. They enclosed many bright spots overgrown with all kinds of green vegetation. Description of the chasm. The poet describes a deep and steep opening on the slanting side of a green hill. It was so very deep and dark that whoever approached it or looked into it was terrified. The place was filled and sacred and conducive to magic and witchcraft. Women deserted by wicked demon lovers went to this place in search of the erstwhile lovers. The place echoed with the weeping and wailing of the desolate women. The pleasure dome, a rare device. The pleasure dome must have been a very tall building. The shadow cast by it fell on the waves. The moving waves gave the impression that the shadow of the dome was floating. The sound produced by the fountain mingled and harmonized with that made by the caves. The poet comments that Kublakhan's pleasure dome was a rare device. It combined opposites. Its dome was sunny, but its floor and the caves under it were icy. The Abyssinian maid plays on a dulcimer. The pleasure dome to that of an Abyssinian maid playing on a dulcimer and singing about Mount Abora. The poet says that if he could recapture the song sung by the Abyssinian maid, he would perfectly describe the sunny dome and icy caves. Whoever reads the poem would see these things before his mind's eye. The reader's fear of the poet. All those who listen to the poet look upon him as a holy being. They are frightened of his radiant eyes and loosely flowing hair. They do not want to come too close to him, lest he should do the harm. As a precautionary measure, they draw a circle round him thrice, a magical exercise which will prevent him from stepping out of the circle to harm others. The listeners or readers close their eyes as they think that if they look at him, they will be mesmerized by him. Their fear of the poet is mixed with the feeling that he is a divine creature eating the honeydew and the nectar which are food of the gods. Unity between the two parts. Kublakhan is a short poem consisting of two parts. The first part tells us about the pleasure palace built by Kublakhan and its surroundings. In second part, the poet talks about his own skill as a poet. There is an underlying unity between the two parts. The poem begins with a description of the river Alf. The ancestral voice. The poet draws attention to a deep chasm or fissure on the side of a green hill covered by cedar trees. A hissing sound keeps issuing out of the chasm. It looks as though an earthquake is going to erupt soon. A mighty fountain splashes out of the chasm, throwing out big rocks. A tumultuous voice is made. Kubla Khan suddenly hears the voice of his ancestors warning him of an imminent war. Symbolism of the poem. Conscience teach him it is unwise to dissipate himself in the palace of pleasure and forget his paramount duty as a warrior and protector of the people. The air flowing underground and then suddenly forcing itself upward as a mighty fountain stands for the mysterious workings of poetic inspiration. The river's underground course is a symbol of the depth of the poet's mind, which is involved in the poetic process. The poetic process. The seething turmoil of the chasm is certainly the emotional upheaval that the poet experiences while composing poems. The flowing of the fountain of and symbolizes the poet's intermittent creativity. The huge rocks that the fountain throws out are the epoch-making truths that the poet expresses. The poetic process, which is described only indirectly in the first part of the poem, is treated directly in the second part. Relationship between the poet and the reader. It describes how the air fertilized vast tracts of land. It is pointed out how the poet's symphony and song furnished deep delight to all. It is also pointed that people, upset by the poet's speech building personality, develop a resistance to him. The poet is a deputy of God. He has come down to the earth to do good to man. But the unimaginative reader is in a rut. He does not want to welcome anything new. He closes his eyes with a holy dread. Coleridge wanted to create an ideal society called Pantocracy. He is bitterly complaining here against the hurdles created by a narrow minded readers who always keep their eyes closed to novel experiments. Thank you.